And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Because all the blessings that we're going to get, which is entailing the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah the 60th chapter, I'm going to start at the 10th verse and read on down. It says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. So the sons of strangers, that's talking about the actual strangers, the other nations, shall build up thy walls. We're going to have them in slavery. So they're going to be building the kingdom of heaven, because we're not building nothing. We're not lifting a hand to move nothing. It says, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. That's talking about the actual Gentiles. We're going to take all of their substance, and that their kings may be brought.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Verse 13. And the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. So the land of Israel, the land of Jerusalem, is going to be made glorious. It's going to be made glorious once again. The kingdom is going to be built up. We had a taste of that during the time of Solomon's reign, which was for about 40 years. Verse 14, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet. And they shall call thee the city of the Lord. The word Zion means monument, the monument of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breast of kings. Meaning we're going to take all this substance. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy power, the Lord and thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring thee gold, and for iron I will bring thee silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. And I will make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praised. The sun shall no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the power thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, meaning our kingdom is not going to go down. In other words, once we get back in power, we're going to be in power forever. The sun is never going to go down on our kingdom again. The sun is never going to set on our kingdom. We're going to always shine, and we're going to always be in that glory once we get into the kingdom of heaven. There's no more going back into slavery under the other nations. Esau's not going to rise back up and put us in captivity. Ham, Japheth, Ishmael, none of the other nations are going to rise up and take us down ever again. When we get on top this time, we're going to remain on top. Neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So no more mourning, no more crying, no more vexation of spirit, no more weeping, no more hopelessness because of the condition that we're in as Israelites right now. Verse 21, thy people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Verse 22, a little one shall become 1,000. This is in the kingdom. So what is this talking about? We're going to have sex. Again, like I said, The two-thirds that are going to pass in this destruction, the two-thirds are going to come back through the one-third that make it. The Lord said, two-thirds shall be cut off and die, and the third will I bring through the fire. It says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of the GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing this word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, so on this edition of morning news and prophecy, all right, dealing with Psyop after Psyop, all right, and things are speeding up, as we enter the so-called New Year 2026. It began with a bang, all right, with the devil, down in Venezuela, all right, now the protests in Iran, all right, we're going to some more news on that, update on that, okay, we have, updates on the economy and the ripple effect, okay, of, what was done in Venezuela. Now you have the ICE, incident, which is, presented to be a psyop. We're going to get into that. And it's a lot going on. All right. And we have to understand as we get closer to the end, is it's prophesied in the scriptures, things are going to speed up. Okay. So this is the time now for us to be anchored, okay, in what we believe. Okay. Because this devil is finna have people all over the place, man. People are going to be more confused than ever. We come into a time of great confusion, okay? And having a thorough understanding of the scripture is going to be stability in this time, you know? So the Lord gave us this grace period to be anchored down in the understanding, okay, of prophecy, man. That's why prophecy was always at the forefront of the ministry. The Spirit has always been on the apostles and elders, beginning with Elder Apostle Tahar to tap into prophecy, man, okay? Because now that we're in the thick of prophecy, okay, we understand what's going on. We understand that these things must be, all right? And when you understand prophecy, these things become a faith booster because it shows that he is, okay? But if you're confused, you don't know, you got Jake still arguing about what the name is, and, Jake don't know who salvation is for. Do we got the Hebrew? If you're still scratching your head, okay, on that part of the doctrine, there's no way, that you're anchored and rooted coming into the times that we're coming into, man. Okay. And this is why prophecy was always at the forefront of the ministry, man, because now we're in the thick of it, man. Okay. So let's matter of fact, the brother got a good precept, and then we're gonna get some more precept. This the brother Mataz one hope elect 144. This is Rock 50 and 28. Blessed is he, all right, that shall be exercised in these things. Okay, and when you exercise something is repetition. That's why we repeatedly go into these things. We repeatedly go into the breakdowns. We repeatedly go into the news. We repeatedly, all right, go into current events and okay, break down, the prophetic scriptures. It's an exercise. Okay, so when we see these things, we recognize it because we've been what? Exercising these things, man. Okay. And it says, and he that layeth them up in his heart, which is his mind, shall become wise, man. Okay. We're becoming wise, okay, in all understanding, and how to in our day-to-day life, and also when it comes to prophetic events, we're becoming wise to where we can tie these things together that's happening in real time according to the scriptures, man. Okay, so let's go here real quick. Let's get this in the book of Second Esdras. All right. And in fact, before I get 16, let's read 15. Then we go to come back to 16. So let's go here. This is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15. All right, in verse 1, it says, behold, and this is a command. Speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, said the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay, so we're commanded, by the Heavenly Father, okay, and it's reinforced through his son Yahweh Shai to speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, man. The Lord wants Jake to understand prophecy. Now, if they reject it, that's on them. Okay, but how about Shemal Shah wants prophecy at the forefront, okay, of the ministry, man. You see, because it's vital to understand the times that we're coming into. Okay, so we can be rooted, so we're not shaken, okay, when these things happen, because we've been told these things. Okay, even Yahweh Shai, all right, which we'll get it. It says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Yeah, so the Bible is full of the Lord will. The Bible is full of the Lord's will. Okay, because prophecy is just the future will of Yahweh by Shemal Shai, what he's going to do in future tense. Okay, and we've been given the understanding of that. Okay, and these things are faithful and true. The Bible is full of events that will surely come to pass. As the scriptures say, none of these shall fail. And as we look out, none of these are failing. Everything is playing out exactly how the Lord said it would play out, man. Even when Esau does things and does particular things, and puts off like he just made some big victory, it's all working towards prophecy, man. We're gonna get into that as well. Okay, prophecy is checkmating this man. Okay, Esau, he's trying his best, to overcome prophecy, and he's being checkmated. Okay, at every turn, this devil is being checkmated, man. Okay, because he's finna lose. Okay, well, we have to understand this devil is getting ready to lose, man. All right, ain't no victory for Esau in the scriptures, man. Within the will of Yahweh by Shemal Shai, there's no victory for this man, and we have to get rooted. We have to be rooted in that, because to the masses, he can portray himself as victorious in everything that he's doing with his propaganda, but we know this a lot. Okay, we know to throw out everything, okay, that doesn't line up with the scripture. We know to throw that out. And most people, they're being bombarded with all these different psyops to where they can't think straight. They don't know they're coming and going. They don't know what's next. What they don't know nothing, man. Okay, and that's the part of the psyops, is to keep you confused. Okay, keep you distracted, keep you misinformed. Okay, keep you divided, keep you worried about things that don't matter. Okay, that's the whole purpose of a psyop, man. It's a psychological operation, man. Where the devil plays with your psyche, all right, to have you what? Uncertain. Okay, and then he can present himself as being a sure foundation, But we know our sure foundation is Yahweh Shai and what he's getting ready to bring to the earth, man. That's our sure foundation. Okay. But this devil, he just has like his psyops creates an earthquake in people's mind. Okay. Then he can come on the scene and present this new world order to stabilize everything out, man. Okay. So let's finish this. It says, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity or the ability to believe. Okay, because two-thirds they just don't have the ability to believe. All right, the Lord didn't grant them. And that's why Yahweh Shah said, what? Unto you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but unto them it is not given. So two-thirds don't even have the ability to believe. They don't have the ability to have faith. Because remember, faith is a gift. Okay, so their unbelief has nothing to do with the will of the Lord playing out in the earth. Okay, because they can't believe. You see, and it's not on them. It's not on us to make them believe, man. All right, he said, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, man. And there's a lot of people getting ready to be judged in their unfaithfulness, man. Because the Lord has raised up his prophets, he has extended his hand of mercy. Okay, he said, watchmen on the walls, the scriptures say, they shall not hold their peace day and night. Okay, so Jake has no cloak for their skin, no cloak for their sin. Okay, and a lot of our people are going to die in their unbelief. But one thing they can't say, they haven't been told, they haven't been warned. So we're going to continue to ring the alarm. Okay, as we're commanded to do. Now let's go here. You go to this is Second Ezra 16. All right, let's start at we'll bounce around a little bit at 21. Second Ezra 16 and 21 said, behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. You see, and I'll put emphasis on great confusion. So people are able to go about, their day to day, even though they hear about all these things that's happening. As long as people day to day are not affected, even though they catching hell, but they still can afford a piece of convenience. Okay, and as long as these people can afford a little piece of convenience, they don't care what's going on around them. They don't see the evils that's growing around them. Okay, they don't see war brewing up. They don't see civil unrest brewing up. They don't believe that a famine is coming because all they know is abundance. Okay, and as these things start to happen and become reality, that's when the great confusion gonna kick in. Okay, because they haven't been exercising these things. Okay, that's when the great confusion is going to kick in because they haven't been exercised. Okay, in prophecy, man. And they're not predestined to believe and to be delivered, man. Okay, and to get the victory over this place, man. Okay, so jumping down from there, watch the read 22. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. It says a lot of people that's going to be cut off from access to food, man. Okay, the Lord gonna make a statement, man. Okay, this place of abundance and gluttonous and pride. All right, what better way to humble pride with a famine? Everybody on the internet talking this shit. Everybody this great guru. Everybody got it figured out, and everybody super tough and all. Okay, well, let's see you fight this famine. Okay, you see you young niggas put this Draco on the famine. Okay, shoot the famine up. Okay, go on the rant on the famine. Nah, man, the Lord finna bring pride. Okay, to nothing in the earth. When the scriptures say the Lord gonna cause pride to cease. Okay, that means pride gonna take a rest in the earth, man. Okay, because pride been on overtime in this society, man. But that famine, it's gonna knock a lot of pride out the earth, man, especially over here in America, man. All right. It says, and the other that escape the hunger, the sword shall destroy, man. Okay. So the Lord has nothing but judgment prepared for this place, man. And we're living in the build up to that judgment. Okay, and things are speeding up, man. Okay, because this devil, he know if he had but a short time, man, and this devil got a lot to do. Okay, this man has a lot to do to try to pull this off, man. So prepare for this man to get more tacky, more frantic, all right, more violent, okay, because he needs to fast track this thing. He needs to move the needle. Okay, verse 37. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compares her womb, which pain when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment, man. So it's like now this devil running so many psyops that you can't even fully digest the first one before he hitting you with something else. You know, people are still unpacking what happened in Venezuela, and now you have this thing with ICE. Okay, and then we're gonna go into it. They supposedly have blackouts now in Iran, media blackouts, all right, to where they have internet outages so people can't post, what's going on. Okay, so before you can even digest, one headline, it's another one coming out. You see, because this devil got to throw everything at this, man. Okay, he has to throw everything he has at trying to establish his new world order, because Esau got everything to lose. Remember, his back is against the wall. He has everything to lose, man. Okay, so this man is going to be he's becoming more desperate by the day. Okay, so that's why that sword gonna come more into play, man. That this man becomes more desperate to establish this thing, man. Okay, that's why eventually the MOTB, okay, is gonna be mandated by their sword, man. When for it's all said and done, you see. So it says, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side, man. So things, all right, the Lord is taking the slack out of prophecy, man. Okay, things are beginning to happen more frequently, so the slack is being pulled out. Okay, things are happening more intense and more frequently. You see, because the devil, he's trying to birth this new world order into the earth. Okay, but our hope is Yahweh Shah birth this righteous world order into the earth, man. Who gonna prevail? Okay, and we know based on scriptures and through the faith that was gifted unto us, man, Yahweh Shah gonna prevail, man. This devil loses. Okay, but if you're not rooted in that, man, this devil's gonna have you all over the place, man. All right, so let's go here to this first video. Now this dealing with the event, all right, with the ICE shooting in Minneapolis, okay, and they're gonna break down, the psyop that's attached to it. So let's play this.
An awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Tensions flaring in Minneapolis after an ICE agent shot and killed 37-year-old mother of three, Renee Good. Hundreds of people gathered last night to remember her. The shooting was caught on camera, and Alex Perez is on the scene there in Minneapolis with the latest on the killing that has put that city on edge. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Robin. Take a look behind me here. You can see neighbors have barricaded the block where the woman was killed. She was a U.S. citizen, and local officials insist she did not have to be killed.
Overnight, Minneapolis on edge. After an ICE agent shot and killed a woman this morning, the investigation underway. The horrific incident caught on cell phone videos. About 9:30 Wednesday morning, 37-year-old Renee Good in the driver's seat of this maroon SUV appearing to block the road. This disturbing video shows the vehicle reverse as an agent grabs a door. The SUV then appears to move forward. The agent near the front of the vehicle fires multiple rounds, including through the windshield. Moments later, the SUV crashes into a parked car.
It was horrible. I mean, crashed her car into a parked car in front of me.
Can I go check a pulse? No.
A person identifying himself as a doctor, heard asking if he can help, was denied by ICE agents who said medics were on the way.
We have our own medics.
Where are they?
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who has deployed 2,000 federal officers to Minnesota, says the shooting was justified and argues the agent feared for his life.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
But state officials and the mayor...
Now you see how easy that was, all right, for this this little chick, Renee Good, all right, we're going to get into the name Renee, okay, but you see how easy it was for them to classify a U.S. citizen, okay, as a domestic terrorist, okay, and what they're doing too, they're normalizing you to, all right, brutal force on citizens, man, okay, they're desensitizing you to making it normal. Okay, because Esau finna come with the sword, so he prepping your mind for the brutality that he's getting ready to bring, okay, to the U.S. citizen, man. Okay, so this devil, you know, based off this little incident, she went from a U.S. citizen to a domestic terrorist just like that. So how easy is it going to be for us, you know, when this devil pushes propaganda on us, for us to be classified as domestic terrorists, man. Okay? So you have to understand this is the devil at work. All right? So let's play this.
Minneapolis dispute the account from the feds and say the woman posed no threat.
Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is what I can tell you is the narrative that this was just done in self-defense is a garbage narrative.
Demonstrators taking to the streets after the shooting. Some confronting ICE agents, throwing snowballs, agents responding with pepper spray and tear gas. The tense ordeal happening only about a mile from where a former Minneapolis police officer was convicted of murdering George Floyd in May of 2020, which ignited nationwide protests against police brutality. Many in this community now angry and demanding change.
Federal agents coming into our city, provoking our citizens, coming after people that mostly aren't even illegal immigrants. They're coming after U.S. citizens.
And overnight, a community mourning, thousands gathering at a memorial for Renee Good.
And Minneapolis public schools have canceled classes today and tomorrow out of an abundance of caution, they say. This is at least the third ICE-involved shooting since increased enforcement began. George?
Alex Perez, thanks.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. You really can't make it up. Another Psyop, conveniently created by your government in Minnesota, takes place less than a mile away from the George Floyd incident where that Psyop actually took place. Your government isn't trying to divide and conquer and bring in order out of chaos, are they? I mean, you could see from the footage that was in that clip, the woman was turning her steering wheel to the right. A cop would not open fire. And a cameraman wouldn't even be standing there for how this is a government because it's filled with the same government codes that we always see. And again, this occurs in Minnesota, right where the George Floyd incident occurred. We have the Somalia daycare situation, which I'll get into later in the video because that's connected to this. And of course, this occurs the day after the insurrection. So people were already boiling over. Democrats are all riled up. Fake satanic politicians like Hillary Clinton tweeting things out to get them to remember that insurrection because they want you to remember that poorly carried out false flag on January 6th that began the massive divide in this country. Not that there wasn't already before, but that's the big event that they're using to bring down the government. Remember, this is about bringing in AI governance. So we obviously see stage protesters in the street. 5 minutes after this happens, we're supposed to believe a guy runs outside, puts a ski mask on, and burns an American flag in the middle of the road. Really? He get all the information straight? Did he know what was going on? I mean, people get shot every single day. People do die every day. He got the information almost immediately. Oh, ICE agents shot a woman in her car who was a white woman. She wasn't doing anything wrong. They claim that she tried to run him over, but she didn't. So he burns the American flag in the street so that the news, of course, could put that front and center, because that's how this all works. We see video clips of the military, as you saw in that clip, spraying gas, spraying all sorts of things in people's faces for no reason whatsoever. These people are just standing there, right? The military, of course, doing this. This is all part of the show, right? And you can see CNN witness agents. You shot her in the effing face, even saying that on CNN. As Tim Walz, again, the character who ran for vice president with Kamala Harris, has said, we've never been at war with the federal government, but they're debating bringing in the National Guard to protect their citizens from ICE. And of course, the Twitter machine, as it always does, it puts out the things they want out there to trend, things like civil war, things like say her name, just like say his name, as we all remember the charade of the George Floyd psyop. And this is it, folks. This is how order out of chaos works. You can see the stage protests, and then you can see how sheeple is as sheeple does. The people see this stuff on the news. If you're a Democrat, you're riled up. You want to go to the closest government staged rally that you think is an organic rally, and you want to protest, right?
Yeah, man. So it's the same, formula, okay? Just different characters, man. Like he said, it was, a few blocks away from the George Floyd psyop, okay? And you just have, all these people, okay, that are put in place. You just so happen to have a medic that was close by. They was trying to go check her pulse. Okay, they denied him. Okay, and it's all to stir up the emotions, man. It's all to get people emotional. Okay, that's what these psyops are meant to do, to stir up the emotions of the masses. Okay, to have you divided, distracted, and confused. Okay, and this all goes back to the order out of the chaos, which he's bringing in. Okay, which he's going into. You see, Esau Edom, he's going to bring out all stops. Remember, his back against the wall with everything to lose. Okay, so prepare for an uptick, when it comes to these psyops, that we're going to see back to back to back to back. Okay, and let's play some more.
Well, the conservatives are saying that this is just ICE doing their jobs, even though it was a white woman and she didn't try to run somebody over. They're defending Big Brother and what Big Brother is bringing in here with ICE and Palantir. So this is what they want. This is order out of chaos, right? This is the motto of Freemasonry, particularly associated with the Scottish Rite's 33rd degree. Freemasons, of course, and what a coincidence, because this is what always happens. This is where it starts, with the coding with the number 33. Renee Good, as if that name isn't fake enough, so as I always say, be George Glass, was killed by an ICE agent near East 33rd Street. They say it was on Portland Avenue South between East 33rd and 34th Street. Of course it was, because it always is, right? For those of you that don't know, 33 is a significant number, perhaps the most significant number to the occult. Prominent in Freemasonry, it's the highest honor that you could achieve. The highest degree in Freemasonry is the 33rd degree. That's why they always use it as their calling card. I covered this with the Bondi Beach event a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago now, how that was done on the 33rd coordinates. These are things that they do, right? They use coordinates, they use addresses, they use all sorts of things, the age of the shooter, the age of the victim. There's always a 33 code in there. For those of you who don't remember, I'll give you a couple examples. So if you think that I'm just pulling this out of a hat, right? July 30th, 2025, we had that shooting on the 33rd floor in Midtown Manhattan, which I did a video on, which is available on the website. Mayor Adams called for gun control. Again, this was about many different things, including bringing in this surveillance state, this surveillance grid. That's why the image you saw was of the man walking with the gun out in the open and that yellow box around him, which is what they want the world to look like. Digital surveillance, biometrics, using 6G technology, right? So it's conveniently on the 33rd floor. Here's another one. 2023, I covered the Nashville shooting. That was one of the transgender shootings that occurred that got everybody riled up, that we need to have red flag laws against people who are trans, even though they're going to turn those against people like me and you who are conspiracy theorists. It happened at the Covenant School, which happened to be 33 Burton Hills Boulevard, the address. Of course, for those of you that don't know, September 11th, those towers were constructed and began construction in 1968, which was exactly 33 years before they took those towers down. Even Sandy Hook, after the fact, Remington offered $33 million to the victims. I mean, the actors in the Sandy Hook school shooting performance. So 33 is their code. You have it on 33rd Avenue. Of course you do. That's immediately the first thing I think when I see these events. You go, okay, this is definitely staged because you have ICE going after civilians, which is what they want. You have the left-right divide, and then you get your 33. You immediately think in your head, well, is she 33? Where are we going to see a 30? Oh, it's 33rd Avenue, and it's right near where George Floyd was supposedly killed, which we, of course, know was a government operation. So let's take a look at some of the other stuff, including Renee Nicole Good. Like I said earlier, the names are always like this. You don't get somebody like Banazuza, Mikadonzi, or whatever. You just always get these cookie cutter names so that you can pronounce it, so that you could share the story with somebody. When you're at your water cooler at work. Oh, yes, Renee Good, George Floyd, right? Renee Good, a U.S. citizen, a mother, and a Twin Cities resident, right? Here's a picture of Renee. And of course, conveniently, if you look into Renee's background, well, she was originally a Colorado Springs resident. She was from the Colorado Springs area. And if you don't know, that is a U.S. intelligence hub. And of course it is. How convenient, right? So she's from Colorado Springs. We saw this with Charlie Kirk and obviously the school that was deeply rooted in the CIA. Here you have Colorado Springs, where she's from, which is hosting key Space Force, Air Force, Army intelligence units at installations like Buckley Space Force Base, Peterson SFB, Fort Carson, focusing heavily on cyber operations, command control, all of it, you name it, but specifically intelligence, right? Because this is the intel agencies that carry this out. Remember, ICE is really, we should just call it what it is, Israeli Communist Extension. Don't forget what ICE is doing here. You have ICE, who is working directly with Palantir. I've broken down Palantir many times. If you're not familiar with Palantir, you better get familiar with what Palantir is bringing in with Donald Trump, who is on board with Palantir, which should tell you everything you need to know about Donald Trump. You already.
So yeah, man. What we see with this psyops, and we have to tie together because she's from Colorado Springs, which is a hub, of all these different intelligent entities of the government. Okay, that's no coincidence, man. So it's clearly, that this is a psyop, meant to stir up, the emotions. Now, another thing that he mentioned with Palantir. Now, ICE has a major contract with Palantir. Okay, and what is Palantir doing is learning. His AI is learning. So what do you think that his AI is learning? Okay, is this cooperating? Okay, with AI? All right, with ICE. Is this AI software Palantir? Okay, is cooperating with AI with ICE? What do you think is learning? It's learning urban warfare. Okay, AI is learning urban warfare. Okay, because remember, in the New World Order, he wants people to be, policed by robots. Okay, drones. Okay, so as ICE agents are out and about, okay, doing raids and, in these communities and doing checkpoints, and AI is learning how to police. Okay, he's teaching AI how to police, man. Okay, so they're doing this through ICE. You see, because AI has to learn. Okay, and what we've been seeing over there in Gaza, AI was just learning how to police urban situations, man. Okay, urban environments. Now it's over here in America through ICE. Okay, and that's why ICE has what? And then they're showing you too that ICE has the authority to do what they need to do. Okay, because it's all, and then it's a thing of fear, because you're seeing, an Edomite woman, the most protected thing in America at one point in time, the Edomite woman being gunned down by federal law enforcement, and the law enforcement being justified, man. So it's a psyop to show you that look, if the Edomite woman, okay, is unprotected, okay, everyone else is doomed. Okay, so it's just a lot of psychological warfare, that's happening, with this one event. Okay, so let's go here. Let me get this precept, and then we're gonna segue. All right, so let's go here. Um, let's get this in the book of Ephesians. Okay, and this is why we gotta be rooted. Ephesians 6:10, it says, in conclusion, be strong in the Lord, draw your strength from him, and be empowered. And this is in the AMP, Ephesians 6:10. In the AMP, it says, in conclusion, be strong in the Lord, draw your strength from him, and be empowered through your union with him. Okay, and this is the time, to cleave to our power more than ever, man. Okay, to be tapped into Yahweh Bashim Shah. This world is gone. Okay, this world is spiraling out of control faster and faster. This age is over with. Okay, we gotta look at this through totally different lenses, man. We gotta already have this place counseled out in our mind. Okay, because we gotta decrease so he can increase. Okay, so our little personal agendas and things that we got going on, man, it's time to trim away, at our personal look, things that we got going on. You gotta do what you gotta do. Each brother and sister situation is different. But to the best of our ability, man, trim away, at these things that don't matter and cleave on to what matters, man. And that's Yahweh Bashim Al Shai and what he's getting ready to do in the earth, man. Okay? We want to cleave on to that power, man. We need to draw near and be under the wing, under protection of the Most High. Okay? Like you have those ships, those oil tankers that's coming from Venezuela, and you have one that painted, the Russian flag, okay, on their tanker so they can be under the protection of Russia, all right, but it still got seas. Okay? Well, what we're doing, we're putting ourselves under the banner of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay? That's the protection we want to draw to. You see? And it says, and in his power and in his boundless might, because he's not limited. You see, all these nations, no matter how much, military force and, economic sway that they got, they have limits, they have bounds. Okay? Our power is boundless, man, and we're going to need a power that's above every power in the earth, man. All right, to get us through these times. Okay? Verse 11 said, put on the full armor of the Most High, for his precepts are like the splendid armor of a heavily armed soldier, so that you may be able to successfully stand up against all the schemes and the strategies and the deceits of the devil, man. And that's why we're exercising these precepts, man. This is putting the armor on us, man. Okay, to understand what's going on, why it's going on. Okay, the end game. Okay, and you get that understanding through what? These precepts, precept on precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Okay, this is how we're exercising the scriptures, man. All right, and these things are in us. Okay, to where we can see what's happening, and automatically a precept comes up, man. When you look at the news and events and the psyops and all the things that this devil is doing, all right, precepts should come to mind. That's why brothers are able to do breaking news on the spot. All right, because they see things that remind them of the precepts. Okay, it says, so that they may be able to successfully stand up against all the schemes and strategies and deceits of the devil. Okay, now, because this devil, he's going to scheme more than ever. He's going to be plotting, all right, more than ever, man. These things are going to increase. Now, what I want to get into real quick, okay, because the chick name is Renee Good. So you go into the definition, name origin, dealing with, All right, Renee. Okay, so you go into Renee, and what does it say? It said the name Renee means reborn or born again. Okay, the name Renee means reborn or born again. Okay, and what is this devil trying to bring? Okay, he's trying to birth his new world order. All right, and this is how these elites talk to each other, man, to signal, okay, other events. Okay, this is how these elites talk to each other through media, through news. Okay, so they're signaling, hey, look, it's their time. Originating from French and Latin roots as a variant of Renee, linked to Latin, which goes back to Rome, it signifies renewal. Okay, because this current empire is the renewal. All right, it's the rebirth of the Greco-Roman Empire. But now he wants to take it digital. Okay, so he wants to establish this forever. And he's in his mind, if he can make it digital, which would give him more control, he can establish this forever, man. Okay, that's the way this devil is thinking. It signifies renewal, spiritual rebirth, and transformation, popular in English-speaking countries as a simplified spelling of the accented Rene, often associated with baptism and new beginnings. Okay, baptism and new beginnings, man. Spiritual rebirth, transformation. Okay, so it's not no coincidence that that's what that name go into, man. These devils, okay, are busy, man. Okay, now what we have to remember when you go into, all right, the back of the dollar, okay, which is what is also in Latin. Okay, it said the Latin phrase on the back of the dollar bill is related to a new order. Okay, is Novus Order Seclorum, meaning a new world of the ages, signifying the beginning of a new American era, not a political new world order. It appears on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States alongside, all right, Anuit, okay, Coeptis. He has favored our undertaking. Speaking of Satan, because it says, in God we trust on the money, that's speaking of Satan. Okay, it says he has favored our undertakings and e pluribus unum, out of many one. Okay, out of many one. Okay, so these devils have been planning this a long time. Okay, and it's all in the Latin. Okay, Renee, it's a Latin name for spiritual rebirth, transformation. You see, so it all linked up to this devil's agenda to transition into this new world, man. Okay, now let's go from there. So the big news dealing with Venezuela, all right, and America, taking control of the oil, and whatever. But when you get into the economic fallout behind this, all this does is amplify the will of the Lord, what He wants. Okay, you see, this devil, he's nowhere near as smart as he think he is, man. All right, if a brother can get that, in Proverbs, I believe it may be 20 and 30, that there's no, wisdom against the Lord. Okay, and then Sirach, I think it's 19 and 22, maybe. The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. Okay, because this devil thinks he's so goddamn smart and calculated. All right, but the only thing that this devil can do is fulfill the will of the Lord. Okay, and all the devil can do is run towards his punishment, man. So as he's becoming frantic and impulsive, all right, it's leading to his end, the end of his kingdom. Okay, the beginning of his captivity, and then the end of him as a nation after that captivity, man. Okay, so this is the fallout. This is what's been happening, because they made these moves to to weaken those eastern alliances. Okay, But what they've done, they strengthened those alliances, man. Okay, that's gonna come against the whore and burn this bitch down, man. Okay, so let's play this. Dealing with the this is like it's like 5 days after, the Venezuela situation. So this is the fallout and what's been happening, globally since that since the kidnapping of Maduro, okay, by the American military. So let's play this.
U.S. pressure didn't stop the trade, it redirected it. Now let's talk about why this is such a strategic failure. When sanctions on Venezuela were briefly eased in late 2023 and early 2024, something happened. Venezuelan oil prices rose. The discount narrowed. It went from $15 per barrel below Brent to about $10 per barrel below Brent. That made Venezuelan crude less attractive to Chinese buyers. The economic advantage shrank. Meanwhile, Iran, which remained under full U.S. sanctions, kept its oil priced at steep discounts. Iranian heavy crude stayed at $10 per barrel below Brent. Iranian extra heavy was even cheaper. So when U.S. pressure on Venezuela intensified again, when the blockade tightened, when seizures increased, Chinese buyers looked at the numbers and made a rational decision. Venezuelan oil, risky, potentially unavailable, $10 discount. Iranian oil, sanctioned, but flowing reliably, same $10 discount, ample supply. The choice was obvious. The United States tried to punish Caracas. It accidentally subsidized Tehran.
So you have to sum it up, because China was buying oil from Venezuela and from Iran, all right? Because, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, okay? So they had two suppliers, of the crude oil needed, for the Chinese market. Now, also the type of oil that Iran and Venezuela have, when they refine it, it creates asphalt, which, China uses that for their infrastructure, roads and, particular things. So they was getting like a 2-for-1, okay? But since America did what it did, and now it's putting blockades on those oil tankers coming out of Venezuela. Well, China now has to depend on Iran more, which is going to strengthen their bond. Okay. And the Lord wants China just to be dependent on Iran. So when this war between the small hats and Iran jump off, China gonna have to, because see, now that's their sole supplier of oil is Iran and Russia. Okay. You see? So now it's making Iran more valuable to Russia and China. That's all America just did, was made Iran more valuable to Russia and China. Okay, so what is that going to mean if there's a war between, all right, Iran, okay, the small hats in America? They got to get in. Now they're more inclined to get involved. They already been supplying Iran with, heavy, all right, military hardware for this next go around with these small hats, because they know it's coming. Okay. But now, before, and you got to think of the time and how the Lord is so precise. So before the war jumps off, he has Esau, all right, he has America to take over, the oil in Venezuela, okay, which hides the value of Iran to Russia and China right before, this another round of conflict between the small hats and Iran. Okay. So America, was beating their chest like it was some strategic victory. No. Okay. All you doing is playing into prophecy, man. Okay. This is exactly what the Lord wanted to happen, how he wanted to happen. And the timing of it was precise, man. Okay, showing you it's the Lord is making these moves, man. Okay, not these devils. Okay, this is the brother Kazak Bun Yahweh, and that other precept is Proverbs 21:30. You know, so lock you, bro. You know, I said 20 and 30. I set you up for failure. You know, but it's Proverbs 21:30, Bible shop. This is the brother Kazak Bun Yahweh, Sirach 19 and 22. It said, the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence, man. So these devils have these counsels of how they want to do things and the moves they want to make. All right. But they don't understand all they're doing is playing into the will of Yahweh Bashim al Shah. You know, these devils think they got to figure it out and we're going to do this and we got this agenda 2030 and we're going to do this and this going to cause this effect and this going to. No, man, all you doing is fulfilling the will of the Lord, man. Okay? All these ideas and counsels of the wicked is not wise. Okay? And that's why it's beginning to work against them because the Lord is working against this devil, man. See, when the Lord was with Esau, everything he did just worked, it flowed. But now that the Lord is against this man, getting ready to bring him, all right, to remove him from power, everything is working against him, man. Okay, and you dumb Americans, you don't have a clue what's going on. Okay, only thing you got out of this was a meme. Okay, the only thing you're gonna get out of this is a meme for social media about how tough your president is. Okay, but everything is leading to your goddamn destruction, man. Okay, so let's read this and then we'll go back to the video. This is brother remnant loyal to Yahweh Shah. Proverbs 21:30 said, there is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. Okay, so there's no working against Yahweh Bashim al Shah. You only work for him. Okay, even in what's that, 1 Corinthians, nothing be done against the truth before it. Okay. So you can't work against Yahweh Bashim al Shah. You can only work for Yahweh Bashim al Shah. Nothing is working against the Lord, man. The Heavenly Father, the Most High, and His Son Yahweh Shah. Nobody's working against it. The Lord's will is being executed perfectly in the earth, man. You know, we have to understand it. All right. So let's let this play some more. You know, he's gonna get more into it.
Because sanctions didn't isolate the market, they reshuffled it. And the beneficiary wasn't an American ally. It wasn't a neutral party. It was Iran. This is the economic backfire that policymakers either didn't anticipate or didn't care about, because the focus was on removing Maduro, not on what happens to global oil flows after he's gone. And what happened is this: Iran's market share in China is growing. Venezuela's is collapsing. And U.S. sanctions policy made it happen. Now, here's where this gets even more problematic, because Iranian oil revenue doesn't just fund refineries and infrastructure. It funds the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It funds proxy forces across the Middle East. It funds drones and missiles, the same drones that U.S. Navy ships are now intercepting in the Red Sea, the same missiles targeting shipping lanes, the same proxy networks destabilizing Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. When Iranian oil exports rise, when payments shift to yuan, barter, and gold, when Tehran gains additional revenue streams, that money flows into military capacity. And the United States is now in the position of fighting militarily and economically against threats that its own sanctions policy helped finance. This isn't speculation, it's accounting. More
Checkmate for prophecy, man. Okay, checkmate for prophecy. Okay, So this devil, all he did was increase Iran's capital, okay, and importance, okay, to these nations in the east. And as the scriptures say, they're beating their plowshares into swords. Okay, Joel 3:9. Okay, and 10. If a brother want to post it, and also, uh, me find this one. But what this devil just did with Venezuela, he just increased Iran's capital, which they're going to spend their capital on what weaponry, because prophecy said they would do so. Okay, so when you strengthen Iran, you don't only strengthen Iran, you strengthen Hezbollah, you strengthen the Houthi rebels, okay? You will strengthen all these Iranian proxies, okay, that depend on weapons to flow from Iran. Okay, so as weapons, and then Iran increases their value to Russia and China, which is going to increase Russia and China's weapon flow to Iran, which is going to increase Iran's weapon flow to its proxies, man. America is funding its own demise, man. Okay, the Lord has America funding their own demise. Okay, is poetic justice, man. Okay. So let's get this real quick. This is the brother Kazak Bun Yahweh, Joel 3:9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up." Okay, because this is a time of war. Okay, things are intensifying now. You see, and this devil has set a precedent, all right, to these nations. Okay, that there's no diplomacy with America. There's only one way to deal with America, man. This is the precedent that has been set. Okay, so while you people are posting your memes and celebrating like this some type of great victory on behalf of America, man. Nah, man, this is just a step closer to America being the desert. All right, America just fast tracking becoming the desert, man, because the Lord is speeding everything up, man. Okay. Verse 10, this the point. It said, "Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong, man." All right, and this was happening, man. The swords and spears, going into missiles, mainly those spears. And Iran has a hell of a missile arsenal, man. Okay, and it's going to increase. All right, this is where most of the money is going. Those people in Iran protesting about, the inflation. Well, it's due to the sanctions. Okay, and the sanctions coming from America. All right, and the people, hey, yeah, you Elamites, y'all just gotta suck it up, man. Eat less. Okay, hey, your government gotta go to war. Okay, y'all, y'all just gotta deal with the austerity right now. Okay, get you one little meal a day and sit your ass down, because your government gotta go to war. Okay, they're trying to go to restaurants and all. It's wartime, baby. Okay, we ain't got time. All right, to kick it. Okay, it's all austerity measures. You see, because the Lord has these governments spending this money on weaponry, man. Okay, and this weaponry that's going to be used to turn America to a desert. Okay, and destroy American military personnel that's abroad. Okay, so let's let this play some more.
More Iranian oil revenue means more resources for the IRGC. More resources for the IRGC means more drones, more missiles, more capability. Washington is paying to intercept weapons that its own policy helped fund. This is the strategic absurdity of the situation. The Venezuela operation was supposed to weaken adversaries. Instead, it redirected economic flows in ways that strengthened one of America's most hostile opponents. And nobody seems to be asking, was this worth it? Why Trump can't let Venezuela go? So why continue? Why double down on a strategy that's producing these results? Because admitting failure isn't an option, not politically, not strategically. If Trump backs off Venezuela, if he lets Maduro's successor consolidate power, if oil flows resume to China, if the operation is seen as incomplete, then the entire sanctions framework loses credibility. Every country watching, Iran, Russia, North Korea, Cuba, learns the same lesson. Resist long enough, and Washington will move on. So Venezuela becomes a test case, not just for this administration, for the entire concept of economic pressure as a tool of statecraft. If Venezuela pressure fails, sanctions credibility collapses. If sanctions credibility collapses, Iran grows, Russia grows, China bypasses the dollar. That's why Trump can't let this go.
So the Lord got, America in a position, even though this is horribly, all right, strategically, you see, this is a horrible situation strategically for them by making Iran more valuable. Well, if they, don't follow through with what they've done in Venezuela, all right, it's going to make them look as if American sanctions, okay, have no more weight to them. Okay, see what America is used to when they put these sanctions on the nation. All right, that the nation that they put sanctions on, its population would do the work for them and overthrow the government, where they can put a American friendly government in power. All right, the fact that America had to go down there to Venezuela, okay, and remove Maduro themselves shows you how these sanctions are losing power. Okay, because there was a time when America put them sanctions on you, it'll get so bad that your government, that your people, the population, will turn on the government and remove the government themselves. Okay, so the fact that America had to go down there to remove Maduro themselves shows you that those sanctions don't have the power that they once had. Okay, and America, the dollar is still the most powerful currency. Okay, but what has happened, these nations have barter systems and work around currencies that they can use and still function. You see, the thing ain't about replacing the dollar. These nations are not trying to replace the dollar. They're just trying to function around the dollar. Okay? They're just trying to function. They're creating systems where they can function without the dollar. Okay? They're not trying to replace the dollar as the world reserve currency. They're just creating systems where they can function. And then they know that there's potential for war. So they need certain trade blocks in place to where they can still trade and function in war. Okay, everything is about war preparation. And also, everybody wants to go into this new system as strong as possible, man. Okay, but when you depend on the dollar, America can just destroy you because they can weaponize the dollar. Shut you out of the markets. But as you have more nations opting out, okay, of just using dollars only and going into these other blocks, these other trade blocks, okay, American sanctions are becoming less, all right, effective to where they have to go in militarily, okay, and enforce, okay, because now they got to enforce the sanctions. It was a time when America just announced the sanctions, okay, and no nations would deal with you because of American sanctions. But now, people, there's a sanction market, okay, to where people are buying the goods that America has sanctioned, and the goods are now cheaper because of American sanctions. So everything that these devils is doing is working against them. Okay, and this is an empire in decline. Okay, they put their Hollywood production together like it was, just a force of this great strength of America, this great power and precision and tactical. No, it's a decline of power. disguised as he still got it. Okay. Which, okay, it's America. Like I say, the dollar, just put things in perspective. The dollar is losing its spending power, you know, but it's still the easiest way, okay, to purchase goods on earth. The dollar is still the easiest way to purchase goods in the earth, okay? From domestically to internationally, the dollar is still the easiest way to obtain goods and resources, okay? So it still holds its value as being the most liquid currency in the world, okay? But as far as being the only currency in the world, that's when it's beginning to lose its value. The only currency that these nations do business in, that's when it's beginning to lose its value to the world. Okay? The American military, they're declining in strength, but they're still able to project power globally, just not like they used to. You know, America can still, like the American ability, because America can wipe a nation off the map. They can do that. Okay? But its ability to put boots on the ground and occupy, all right, a country has declined. Okay? You see, because you can't just nuke everything because you need the resources. So you can't just nuke everything. Okay? Then your sanctions ain't as effective as they used to be. Okay? So what we're witnessing is an empire in decline. Okay? Trying to play like it still got it when it don't. And everything that they're doing to try to show power is working against them, man. Okay? So let's play this. Let me jump forward a little bit, a few points. Okay, because he goes into, because now, you know, with America seizing these oil tankers, these countries are having to militarize their trade routes, you know, which is a step closer to war. See, the Lord is putting all the pieces in place for when this war break out. It's already, everything gonna be in place. Okay, so let's play.
To invest in chaos. And while all this economic reshuffling happens, the naval drama continues. Tanker seizures, Russian escorts, submarine presence near Ireland, U.S. forces tracking vessels across the Atlantic. This is what sanctions enforcement looks like now. Not just legal penalties and financial restrictions, naval interceptions, military confrontations. The line between economic pressure and military action has blurred, and every seizure attempt becomes a potential crisis. We covered this in detail last time, but it's worth remembering. The Venezuela operation isn't just changing oil markets. It's militarizing trade enforcement in ways that create ongoing risks. Meanwhile, the regional response continues to solidify. Colombia mobilized forces on its border.
So with let's go here real quick, because now these trade routes are becoming militarized to where people, these nations have to protect, okay, their trade, their commerce. Okay, so now you're seeing more navies, all right, these nations, all right, their navies are being more mobilized in international waters. Okay, so now you have American Navy ships passing Chinese Navy ships, okay, and Russian Navy ships, so forth and so on, submarines, okay, to protect their trade routes. And this is the beginning phase of war. Because when you go here, let's get this. I just looked it up in the chat. All right. It says, hold on. Go to what I asked. So when you go into, I said when trade routes have to be heavily guarded by military, is they usually, all right, beginning stages of war? It says short answer, often yes. Okay. It says when trade routes, make sure I'm sharing it. Okay. Yep. So it says when trade routes have to be heavily guarded by military forces, it usually signals serious geopolitical tension and can be an early indicator of war. But there are a few distinct scenarios to understand. While heavy military guard can mean war is coming, historically, this situation tends to appear in the pre war phase for several reasons. Okay, it says a breakdown of trust. Okay, and America is constantly showing more and more that you can't trust them at all and nothing. America is rogue right now. They've been rogue, but it's on the level to where these nations can't do nothing but respond militarily to America, man. Okay? Because America is just that nigga in the room. Okay? And it says trade normally relies on mutual trust and stable relations. And what America did is just destabilize the trust of global trade. Okay? America has destabilized all trust in global trade, man. Okay? And more nations are beginning to join, okay, with these alternative trade blocks. Okay? And ultimately, it's going to all lead to the CBDC, a central bank digital currency, with a lot of these nations are already trending towards digital. So the elites are in the background, herding these nations into the digital system, because these alternative trade blocks, they still lead to the MOTB. Okay. It says military escorts fear, all right, fear of attack, piracy, sabotage, or blockade. Their fear often comes from hostile states or proxy forces. Okay. Protection of strategic lifelines when trade routes are vital, oil, food, weapons, rare materials, states guard them aggressively. If those routes are threatened, it often means conflict is already underway at a low level. If those routes are threatened, it often means conflict is already underway at a low level, man. Okay? The beginning of sorrows. You see, we're here. Okay? Because think about it, when war breaks out, you have these navies, all right, these naval vessels are already mobilized. Okay, because this third world war gonna be land, air, and sea. Okay, it's gonna be the trifecta. Okay, and then the war in heaven is the atmosphere. Yahweh Shai coming, okay, to disintegrate the militaries of the earth, man. Okay, so the Lord is mobilizing these militaries, man. This is the Lord's chess moves being made. Okay, Esau, he's just another pawn in the. See, he's a pawn on the Lord chessboard. You see, he's a king on the chessboard of the earth. Okay, but on the Most High chessboard, he's a pawn. You see, it says escalation pattern. It says a common historical sequence. It says political, economic tension, harassment of trade, raids, seizures, sanctions, piracy, and that's what America is doing. Okay, military escorts and patrol, skirmishes or incidents, and then open war. Okay, so this is the escalation pattern that we're witnessing right now. Political, economic tension. They've been talking about Venezuela for months. Okay, harassment of trade. All right, they begin to take an oil tanker or two here or there. Okay, and then what it leads to military escorts and patrol, which this is what's happening now. So now, we can get into skirmishes or incidents, and then it's going to be open war. Okay, so this is where we at. All right, now we know the MOTB, has to be mandated before, all out war. Okay, we know that the MOTB has to be mandated. Okay, but what the Lord is doing is just staging He's staging pieces in place for when war breaks out, man. He's setting the stage. Okay, he putting all the pieces in place and setting the stage for this war, man. Okay, so let's go from there. Now I want to get this because this the latest was happening in Iran. Okay, because they're telegraphing like there's going to be an attack on Iran. We'll see, because they're constantly intensifying, these riots. Now we don't know if this footage is AI or not, okay, but there's supposedly, a blackout on the internet, dealing with Iran, so we'll see, okay, but they're, showing all the signs, they're moving all the hardware, all right, the military hardware in their region, okay, telegraphing war, okay, so let's play this.
This is Dabu 7, and by all accounts, the protest and unrest has been spreading throughout Iran all week, and it's now hit another level. These protests, massive in size, and they're saying they're continuing to grow. We also have reports here that there's a massive blackout within Iran in terms of the internet. The internet and cellular outages are nationwide. Right? This anti-government call for people to rise up has been spreading, and a lot of these people hitting the streets of Tehran. They're saying 100 different cities are affected by this outage, so it's massive. And they're saying it's the government pulling a move here before a larger crackdown. That's what they believe is happening here. They say dozens have been reported dead, some 45 people, where the government has shot protesters and killed them. These are unverified numbers, but it's been going pretty crazy here in the streets. There's also talk that there's agents of deception, as they're calling them, from the West on the ground, helping to kick this all up and to push this toward a full-blown color revolution that affects Khomeini and that affects the leadership inside of Iran. But this is an interesting move, that they have shut down the internet, so to speak. You see this in different instances, just like we just saw with Maduro. They did lights out. They shut everything out. Not only the lights, but the internet, everything went down and out, and they swooped in, they made a move. In this instance, it looks like it's the government themselves shutting down the internet so the people can't communicate en masse, because all these people are using the internet and their phones to organize and to spread all this information. So looks like they've tried to lock it down. So the country nearly completely offline right now as this continues. So join me for the live streams where I talk about this in greater detail Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu77. Hope to see you there. Much love.
Yeah, man. So it's gotten to the point, to where, these devils, if this is true, and Iran has had to black out the internet, it's because these devils are stirring up unrest. And this is what the CIA and Mossad does. They stir up this unrest. They put it all over the media as if, the leaders of this nation is just cruel and needs to be removed. They're a problem. It needs to be dealt with. All right. Iran needs regime change. The same build-up they did for Venezuela. It's the same playbook, different character, man. Okay. It's just now Iran is the target. Okay. So we're gonna see. Okay. We're gonna see how that play out, man. We're gonna follow that, kind of see what these devils gonna do. Time will tell, because at this point it's just waiting to see if they gonna make a move on Iran. At this point. Okay. But the stage, the stage is set. The propaganda is out. Okay, and if Iran has had to black out the internet, for because these agent provocateurs, these devils are experts in toppling governments. All right, from the inside, you know, the Mossad and the CIA. All right, that's their expertise. Okay, so a blackout is to combat, their ability to organize. If Iran has had to do that. Okay, so we'll see, man. We'll follow that. Now, I want to end. I want to end with this video here because my guy Larry Johnson, man. Because I got this clip from watching Elder Pastor Hart video yesterday. And he was responding to a brother in London who used this clip of Larry Johnson. We know he's ex-CIA. We use we this is one of the go-to sources that we go to on this channel. Him and Colonel McGregor. All right, Colonel McGregor and Larry Johnson and a few other insiders and ex-military or intelligence agents that I use to get first they're older so they've seen a lot and then they was actually boots on the ground. They know the American military machine, okay, and the operations of America abroad. Okay, so yeah, man, he said something heavy. He's going to respond, to, what's this guy, Lindsey Graham, talking about, Cuba is next. Okay. And he's going to respond to that. All right. And you can tell he has some passion about it, the way he responds. So let's play this.
We're talking about this. And one of the biggest things that got him the most excited is Cuba.
The communist dictatorship in Cuba will soon come to an end. 30% of the oil to supply the Cuban economy comes from Venezuela. Again, we've got some work to do in Venezuela, but we'll get there. They will be denied the oil. The new leadership coming through a free and fair election, hopefully will happen sooner rather than later, is going to reject communist Cuba. Communist Cuba is a dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've sent tens of thousands of people to our country here illegally. People have fled Cuba looking for freedom. The communist dictatorship's days are numbered. There's no way that the communist dictatorship in Cuba survives after the takedown of Maduro.
Unfortunately, I only have a few minutes. I'm going to have to break contact to go to another show here. But what in the hell? Why is this little country called Cuba that can barely keep its people fed and the lights on? Are these people so obsessed? And obviously Marco Rubio is the biggest, baseball bat wielding thug on that one. Why do we care so much about destroying Cuba?
Because we can't stand somebody that's not going to do what we tell them to do. It's the ultimate, it's the imperialist mindset. You've got to obey or else. That, let's face it, it comes out of our past as slave owners. You tell the slave what to do. They better do it or you whip them.
He said it comes from the past of being slave owners. You tell the slave what to do or you whip them. Okay, and what we have to understand, the Western Hemisphere, North, Central, and South America is a one big plantation for Esau, man. All right, where all the tribes are at, So when we see him bullying these Central and South American nations, like the spirit, we went into the other day, he's like a plantation owner just going around beating his slaves. The plantation is going out of business. Okay, and he can't do nothing about it, so he just, drunk and just going around beating the slaves. Okay, so this is what we're seeing this devil doing, man. He just, showing the world where I can still beat my slaves when I want. Okay, I can't bully Russia and China like I used to. Okay, I can't bully Iran, all right, and certain other nation like I used to, but I can beat my slaves whenever I want, and you can't do nothing about that. Okay, this is the spirit this nigga is in, man. Okay, but it gets better. Let's listen to it.
And instead, now we're turning that upon the rest of the world. It'd be one thing to we could draw the list up of all the countries that have been busy attacking and killing people in other countries. The top of that list, unfortunately, is my country, your country, the United States of America. We've got so much goddamn blood on our hands, it would take an eternity to try to rinse it out. And this.
He said, we got so much goddamn blood on our hands, it'll take an eternity to rinse it out, man. Okay? And you know he done seen it. He's an older guy. He's been in the CIA. All right? So you know he knows a lot of the wickedness, okay, that the American government has done. You can tell they come from a place of knowing. Okay? He's not just speculating. He knows the blood that's on America's hand. Okay? Run it back, man.
Countries that have been busy attacking and killing people in other countries. The top of that list, unfortunately, is my country, your country, the United States of America. We've got so much goddamn blood on our hands, it would take an eternity to try to rinse it out. And this fervor in the United States, well, among our leaders, like, to call Lindsey Graham a leader is an obscenity, but among people like Graham and Jack Keane, but now Donald Trump and Tom Cotton and Marco Rubio, and run down the list. They enjoy killing these other people without not one shred of regret for taking human life. And that defines us as a society. We have no regard for human life.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That sums it up. We can get all into, the analytics and, we go into things. All right. But to sum it up, dealing with the devil, okay, he just gets a kick out of blood, man. Okay. So let's go here. I see you, brothers. So let's go here. All right. First, let's start here with, Ezekiel 35. Okay. This is Ezekiel 35 and 6. No matter if I started at 5, it says, because thou hast had perpetual hatred and shed the blood of the children of Israel. And this is addressing Esau, man. Okay. Of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Okay. So here it is, as we're supposed to have, a little liberty in this man's kingdom. Okay. We're still subjugated. Okay. We're still property of the devil. Okay. But as he was supposed to let up, this nigga just keep going. It's just a perpetual hatred, man. So now he just wants to bomb. Okay. Or send ice. Okay. He's getting ready to come with that sword. You see? To him, to this devil, man. All right. The blood of people is nothing to him. But he really gets off on slaughtering Israelites, man. Okay. He has a bloodthirst for Israelites. Okay. And America is in the league. As he said, if you had to line up all the nations, okay, as far as the most bloodshed, he said it'll be our country. Speaking of America, he said it's our country, man. And you can tell that other devil, because Larry might be, a Jake. Larry Johnson might be a Jake, because he said that, with some integrity. All right. The other devil, the show he on, what's that nigga name? Daniel Davis. He was looking like he was offended when Larry was saying that. I know he pure Edomite, but Larry might be a Jake. Don't know. But either way, all right, he spoke some truth. Okay, but now when you keep reading, it says, therefore, as I live, said the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee, man. And this is the time we coming into, man. Okay, when this devil, he's going to be the target of the Most High's terror, man. Okay, this man has been terrorizing the earth. You know, just air striking at will, destroying nations at will. Okay, this nigga done drop atomic bombs. This nigga done, you know, just move, you know, one people from one landmass to the other. Okay, just slaughtered Jake, you know, genocide after genocide. Man, this man, you know, he hasn't hated blood. So now blood is getting ready to pursue him. Okay, the Lord finna turn this thing to where Esau, okay, his blood has to be shed because he done shed so much blood, man. Okay, and that's part of true reparations, man. You see, you can't put a dollar amount on reparation. Everything that this devil had done, you can't put a dollar amount on it. Okay, now it's beyond a dollar amount. Okay, part of reparations is blood. You see, it said, thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate. America gonna be turned to a desert. That's part of the reparations from the Most High. Is turning America to a desert and cut off from it him that passes out and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men in thy hills and in thy valleys. Okay, and in all thy rivers they shall fall that are slain with the sword, man. Okay, so America gonna be turned to a desert, man. And even the American military personnel that's scattered abroad, they gonna get ran through too. Okay, because the Lord required their blood. You see, as brothers have posted, I think a few brothers done posted it. Okay, this is the brother Ataza one hopeful elect Numbers 35 and 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein you are. For blood it defiled the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood of that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Okay? So the only way America can be cleansed, okay, is the bloodshed of you devils, man. Okay? And that's why when you go here to Revelation 17, when it described the whore, okay, and just get to the point, Revelation 17 and 6, and it says, and I saw the woman, which is America, drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered, all right, with great admiration. Okay, showing you that this, you know, America is attractive to the senses, to the flesh. Okay, but it's a poison to the spirit. You see? Now, when you go into this word drunken, okay, she said you drunken with the blood of the saints. So we went into the other day. The saints are the Israelites. Okay? So you go into the Greek word.
Strong's G 3184. Methuo.
Okay? And it says what to be drunken. It said metaphorically of one who has shed blood and murdered profusely. Profusely, man. Okay? Of one who has shed blood and murdered, all right, profusely, man. Okay? Now let's get this word profusely. What does that mean? But just speaking of America, man, and that's why it's gonna be so much bloodshed in America, man, and all them slave owners from back in the day, they're back. Okay, they're all back for this judgment, man. Okay, so let's get this let me see what this word. All right, so just real quick, I'll just copy and paste. So just a quick definition, all right, on this word profusely. Okay. All right, profusely. It says a great degree in large amounts. A great degree of large amounts, man. Okay, so America is guilty of, you know, large amounts of great degree of the blood of the saints, and that's going to be required at the coming of Yahushua. You see, that's going to be required, man. Okay, and this is what, and these devils, they get off on it. Okay, but the Lord's going to get off on them. All right, so yeah, I think the point's been made. You know, there's a lot going on, so I just wanted to compile all that, you know, information that I could, you know, kind of catch up with what's the happenings and what's going on, you know, but Lord will. All right, you brothers, all right, and you sisters, edify once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders, GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful. Shalom.